Good morning, this is Temple, and I am going to go through my welding rig today. This has been a project that's taken several months to get to this point, and I apologize. It's going to be kind of a long video. I'll try to put some chapters in here so you can jump around to different parts of the truck, but I hope it gives you some ideas for those out there looking to set up their own trucks, and let's get into it. So first off, the truck itself. This is a 2016 Ram. It's a 3500 1-ton, and it does have a Cummins diesel in it. It is manufactured as what is called a chassis cab. It is the full cab truck, but the chassis has nothing on it. It could be a flatbed, it could be a utility service body, but that's how they sell these to a lot of fleet dealers and fleet manufacturers. A word of warning, or just something to be aware of: if you buy a chassis cab, there are a few features on it that are a little bit different. For example, most of the Rams, I think, have a 30-something gallon fuel tank. This one has a 52. It's center mounted at the very rear, so it's got some things for commercial use. Most importantly, on the door you'll see a note that says incomplete vehicle, and it's going to stay that way because it wasn't built as basically a pickup truck. The thing to be aware of is, and this is going to be a work vehicle, it probably won't matter to you anyway, but you will have to get commercial insurance on this. It is listed and registered as a commercial truck and will always be, so just bear that in mind. So for the truck itself, I've not done anything as far as where I drive or any major cosmetic modifications inside. I have done some cosmetic modifications to the outside. I just think it looks a little bit better. I removed the chrome grille and put in an aftermarket black grille. You'll also see I've upgraded to a pre-runner style front bumper, and I also added some strobe lights. You'll see strobes up front and rear. They're just a white and yellow. I do park occasionally on somewhat busy streets. I want to be marked and visible. I also want to be marked as a work truck in utility type areas. I did change out the wheels and tires. I also changed out the running boards. I like black. I don't like chrome, as you can tell. And then I also debadged it and put on all black Ram and Cummins decals. And then that's my company logo on the door. Instead of just doing a sign with my phone number, I wanted something a little bit different. There is going to be a phone number sign on the back of the truck when I get to that. But that's pretty much the truck itself in a nutshell. Cab itself, where I drive, absolutely nothing special. I got a couple little brackets I mounted to keep business cards right there, so they're easy to grab and give out to customers. But this is pretty much a stock cab, and I do have the upfitter switches that it came with. And if you have a question about those, leave it in the comments. It's a real easy connection under the dash. That could be an entire other video on how to hook up the upfitter switch. It's a really cool feature most of the new crew cab type trucks have these days. So to start with, the oxy-fuel setup. The box that you see is a custom-built box for the oxygen. In the bottom I have argon, and of course acetylene has to stay at least at a 45. I just keep it vertical. I've just got a piece of 8-inch pipe. I had this powder coated after I built all of it, just to look better and just to last a lot longer. And basic rig as far as the fuel hose goes, it's nothing fancy. I've got to put a cover on that because you can see the sun's kind of taking a toll on it. I have about a 50-foot argon hose here, and then I carry a small bottle in case I have to go way up inside of a building. But for the most part, this rig, as far as oxy-fuel and argon setup, is pretty handy. So my primary welder, I run a Lincoln Ranger 250 GXT. This is a great welder. Again, that's a whole other video to talk about the welder itself, but let me just talk about its setup. I do run 240 volt equipment off of here a lot. So it's got a 4-plug, which you need to adapt down to a standard 50 amp type plug. I run a TIG machine. You're going to see some of the other welders that I run off here, so that's used a lot. I do use Linco quick connect connections for both of my stingers, because I have, or stinger and work clamp, because I also have extensions in case I need to go further. I do have it mounted on top of a stall pad. This is a stall mat for like horse barns. And what I did was, when I mounted this, number one, that helps reduce the vibration greatly. Number two, if I have to service this, I want to be able to pull it back off. So it's bolted to the bed. The nuts on the backside are welded on, so they're captive. So basically, I could pull it off by myself if I have to. Take out 4 bolts, lift it up off the truck, and it's ready to go. Additionally, and you'll notice I'm not the tallest guy in the world, have a hard time getting up there. To make life easy, I built a little bracket right here to step up, to be able to step up there and fuel it, because it's where I need it to be, but it's inconvenient to fuel. So the bracket helps out a lot. Next item up here is my air compressor. It's a twin tank 9-gallon Harbor Freight air compressor, and it's been running real well, doing a good job for me. The Predator engines I found to be pretty reliable. I keep a 50-foot retractable Lincoln air hose here. I also have a little quick connect release air hose. I use it primarily to run a needle scaler, and I also clear out holes in concrete after we drilled out to put down mounting plates for posts. I may test out some arc gouging with it. I know people that have arc gouged with these. I could probably get away with a little bit of it. If I had to do something bigger, I'm probably going to wind up having to upgrade to the bigger 30-gallon compressor, and it will fit here. I've done all the measurements. It fits. It's electric start, so it'll be a nice addition if I have to go to that. You'll notice a switch over here. I'll get to that in a minute. It is to a water tank and to the pump on it, and I'll show you that here in a little bit. To that, this is the hose to that tank as well, and primarily I use it for fire suppression, and I'll show you how I set everything up. I have another little feature of it I'll show you here on the next set. Next up, primary use are my lead reels. I have 50 feet of 2/0 on each side. I do run Ultraflex for my Stinger just because it is a lot more comfortable. Inside the reel, I'm not going to pull it off and show you, but I do have another Lenco quick connect, so I can pop it loose. I have 2 more sections of 50-foot 2/0 hanging out upon the bullhorn, so I can get 100 feet away from my truck if I need to, and honestly that's about as far away as I want to get. Now the reels themselves are diamond. I know a lot of people bag on them. They're not high-end. These were less than $400 for this set, and apparently the bearings do wear out after time. Honestly, when I was putting all this together, I was pouring a ton of money into here. I'd love to have a set of Outlaws or Tidwells or Illuma reels, but looking around $2,000 for those. They'll probably come later. I probably will change these out. One little thing I had to make is that the way that these pull and release to pull the pin ties in too tight to my air compressor, so I've fabbed up a little lever here to pop it so that it'll release it and still hold in place. Next to that, you might see this weird thing sitting here. Let me show you what this is. I actually got this idea from Isaac, aka IC Weld, that we all know on YouTube, and it's a little portable workbench. So if I want to torch cut, I want to do stuff that I don't want on the truck, this little guy, pretty heavy chunk of 3/8 plate, just comes off. It's got little clips right there. I set it on here. I've got an area I can torch cut, I can clamp to it, I can grind on it, work on it, and not really tear anything up that's sitting over here. In this area, you'll see right at the very end of this pocket, you may not see on camera, there's another piece of metal welded in here, and I've got a little piece of pipe down there. And what that's for is, I have a Pipeliner's Cloud 8-foot umbrella, and let me tell you what, in the summer in Central Texas, every little bit of shade will help. So this is for the post to go into. Obviously the umbrella goes up on there. I'll show you the umbrella itself in a minute, and this holds nice and secure. I occasionally strap things across the back. This is just a tie down hook I tacked on here just to tie to as well. This truck has 4 compartments on it. When I bought it, it had this one, same type, on both sides of the front. The rear ones were not on the truck. I added and welded those on. This is just my kind of a catch-all, really. It's the one that's not very organized. I do have a hitch on the back. I do tow with it occasionally to pull materials, but I don't want to trip on it all the time, so I have a couple of hitches in here for both sizes. I have my caps for my bottles. I keep some ratchet straps in here to tie stuff down, and also keep some towels and hand cleaner in here, because when I'm done working, I want to go eat. I don't want to be that grungy. So again, to that, I do have a little thing that I made off my water tank I love. So the water tank itself, the sprayer, has a standard garden hose type fitting on there. I ran a piece of hose to a spigot, and I've got myself a hand wash station. Or I can fill up to dump a bucket of water into a hole if I need to for mixing concrete or whatever. But just having access to water is super, super handy. I love having that access. This little area right here is kind of open, and this is more going to be in the fine-tuning area once I get down to that. The truck's pretty well rigged out how I need it on a day-to-day basis, but I may build another compartment. I may put a welding electrode oven in here. I may just put another compartment for tools that would fit specifically in that area. But the cool thing is you can look at spots like this and just fab out something for yourself and make it however you need it, custom fit to you. You'll see some of that in the cab when I get to that area, but I have some future plans for it. I just don't know what it's going to be yet. If anybody has good ideas or suggestions, please drop me a comment. Like I said, I've got a step right there. This area is kind of open. I may close it off. I got some diamond plate left over from another project, so just as a visual thing, I may kind of encase this a little bit, just clean this area up just for looks. And again, that's purely aesthetics and just kind of for fun. This little compartment right here, this was an add-on. It did not come with the truck, so I welded a bracket on here for my mud flaps. And then here's primarily consumables. I've got flap disc, grinder wheels, cutoff wheels, everything else. Milwaukee has a couple pretty cool little pouches, so I have some that are specifically set up for like just the consumables I use for aluminum or things like that. But this is one of my two main go-to boxes, the two at the back. I'm in every single job site I go to. One of the things I left open was the left to right of the bed. If you notice, there's a couple of areas where I could put a 24-foot piece of material across here without anything holding it up. I did that on purpose. Some people may think it's wasted space, but this gives me a nice area to throw some tools up there and also just work on longer or larger items. That is basically my primary workbench. So you'll see a lot of little things like this on my rig. These have popped up as I found them necessary. Occasionally I just need to clamp down one little piece and round off a corner or grind something or cut it real fast. So I put this little tab back here. It's absolutely not my way of anything else, but it's a great little tab to great little tab to clamp to. And then I have an entire workbench that has fixture clamps for it. So I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna do a little fixturing. So I put a 5/8 inch standard hole in there so I can drop a fixture clamp. And there I go. I can lock something down on this as well to be able to grind it if I need a little bit bigger piece fixed here onto the bench. I've had stuff stretched across here that I just use this as a clamp off. So little things like that really help out just to make your life easier. And as you're working and however your flow goes, you're going to probably find things you might want to weld here or clamp there. Now, on the back of the truck, you'll see I do have strobe lights, just like I have on the front. I have 4. They're not obnoxious. They're just kind of, you would notice them, but they're not just standing out. But if I get somewhere, I really don't want to be hit, or I want to mark myself as a commercial vehicle, I can kick these guys on. I do have an additional light bar. It just ties into the trailer that gives additional lighting for stopping and turning. And then I have some LEDs I put here for backup lights. For Ram owners, a little word of warning. I cannot remember the abbreviation for it, but the monitoring system on the vehicle does not like LEDs. So if you wire this up to your reverse circuit as your trigger, what you're going to have to do is use a relay. You need to provide 12-volt power just separate from the system, because it will trip up and your reverse lights will go off in that cycle every time. So again, if you have any questions about that, let me know. I can go into more detail about it. And I believe that would be Elvira making one of her many camera appearances, our very helpful but annoying shop cat. Over here, what she's rubbing on, the back of the trailer hitch, I step up here all the time. We climb up in and out of the truck. It comes out a couple inches and it tapers down, and I've almost slipped and busted my butt several times on here. So again, cut some 1/4-inch plate, kind of tapered it in and out, and welded this on here to step up, and put some non-slip grippy tape on here so if it's wet or cold, you won't slip off of that. Additionally, when I weld and make stuff, I try to use all kinds of different processes. So if I ever want to show somebody this was MIG, this was self-shielded, this was done with 67018, I can show a bunch of different processes of my welding on my own truck. All right, back here, you've seen all this stuff hanging. Is my little set of bullhorns that I made. One thing I carry is a bucket, great for trash. Throw spent electrodes into there. This is my primary go-to. Again, it's easy to get to, easy to grab onto. This stuff rides real well. I don't have to strap it down or clamp it down. I'm not driving crazy. It's just some plate, some pipe with some elbows and capped off. Again, I did have it powder coated because I wanted it to look nice. I also want to show people what powder coating looks like. It's bolted to the bed. I can pop it right back out. But again, think of what you need and what your workflow is and how you want to build it for yourself. This works great for me. And what I keep here is 2 primary extension cords I'd hook to the Ranger. I've got a 25-foot and a 50-foot. This little 25-foot guy right here is my workhorse. I don't get that far away most of the time, so this one is day in and day out. Then I've got a 50-foot to back it up. This is a 25-foot 240-volt cord that goes over to the generator for all the welders that I run on there. Additionally, I'm going to add an outlet back here down on the bottom just to be easy. When I TIG weld back here, I just want to be able to plug right back here. So additionally, on the back of the truck coming will be a 240-volt outlet and another 120-volt outlet here as well. I do keep a little 50-foot garden hose. Again, we were setting some concrete posts the other day, hook up to the truck, dump it in with the hose. It's somewhat simpler. And then I keep an additional cord if I need to get further away. This is a 100-foot of cord. So right here, I have 175 feet of extension cord, and I really don't want to be that far away from my truck. But this is my go-to. Grab it day in, day out. It's one of the first areas I go to when I get to a job site. One of the things I have to deal with a lot, and currently in Texas we're in drought and we're in burn bans, is fire. I set stuff on fire all the time, just working around fence posts and gates, things like that. So fire suppression is a big issue for me. So I went to Tractor Supply. Instead of having to either burn up a fire extinguisher every time or get a little pump sprayer, I went and got this guy. It's $247. I looked it up yesterday, and it's a 25-gallon Femco sprayer. Comes with the pump, comes with, I believe, 25 feet of hose and a really great spray nozzle. You don't have to adjust the end. The way you squeeze the grip, it's either a fan or a straight stream, and it shoots about 35 feet, so it really pumps out a ton of water. I just have a couple ratchet straps. The way I do most of these things, you'll notice, they are secure, they're welded, but they could easily be cut off, removed. I could reconfigure this truck if I need to. But I have chain links welded down, it's strapped down to that. And again, on the other end of this, I've got a little spigot, a little fitting that is connected to a hose, and that's my primary water supply. And the other thing with it is, if you get somewhere and you're worried about setting stuff on fire, pull the hose and wet the whole area down first, again, to prevent anything from kicking off. Next up is my Pipeliner's Cloud umbrella. I absolutely love this thing. Again, it's an 8-foot fireproof umbrella. Stays right there. Now, the reason it's up there is because, again, I really am trying to make the most of every available inch I have. Well, there's no reason for it to take up room laying down somewhere. No offense to Pipeliner's Cloud, but the tube it comes in is junk. So I wanted to make something nicer. This area up here, up in the air, is kind of wasted space. So why not get it up out of the way? So I built this. This is 1x3 rec tube, some square tubing, welded down. I got some anchors to it, other ways to tie to it. This kit is available on Amazon. I want to say it was $75 or $80. It comes with the lid that you can actually lock. It comes with the U-bolts and the little saddles, and it comes with the back clamp. The way I made this is 8-inch PVC. You can easily paint it. I put this on, I put about 5 screws in there. I did put silicone in here, and then I've tapered this edge all the way around, kind of ground it down so nothing snags. So the umbrella goes in and out really easily. Tuck the strings out of the way, slam the door, and it's nice and secure. If any of you guys are even on the fence remotely about getting a Pipeliner's Cloud umbrella, get one. There's absolutely no reason not to have one. Additionally, I have this exact same idea as the OD of the pipe. It's got a sharpened end on it, hammer it into the ground, and it doesn't have to be on my truck. We can go out in the field and hammer this and have some shade, or even set it down to lower to the ground, turn it on its side, and if I have to use something with shielding gas, I can use the umbrella to shield off any wind to prevent my gas from getting blown away. But honestly, I just can't say enough good things about this umbrella. We use it pretty much anytime we're outside. So I cannot take credit for this little area of the truck. Once again, our friend Isaac at IC Weld, who also is in Central Texas, had this idea on his truck. I absolutely love what he did with it. It's a great idea. I really don't like having to have a trailer on a job site if I don't have to. So I try to haul as much materials as this as I can without having to set up any kind of a rack system. So one of the things he did on his rig is he kept one area that front to back is completely open. I did the same thing here. So there's a spot right here that's about 10 inches wide that I can get all 9 feet of the truck bed usable. I can even put a 12-foot stick of something and red flag it and put it in here. I've got some tie downs. So this area is available for that. You can see it when I pull this out. The area goes all the way up. Got a couple pieces laying up in there as well. So I also do have a broom you can see up there. Since I'm not an electrician, sorry, I had to take a shot at the Sparkies, but it is what it is. Additionally, invariably, the minute I would start working here, something would roll up out of my way. So I built a little tailgate, miniature tailgate, so when I'm working here, nothing rolls up into there. So either way I need to haul materials or use this as a tailgate, this area right here gets used constantly because I'm hauling gates and fence panels and everything else, and I can haul quite a bit back there. And again, have anchor points to strap it all down and it stays nice and secure. So on your rig, try to figure out a way to haul long pieces of material if you at all can to avoid using a trailer. Naturally, you've got to have a vise somewhere on the truck. So the easiest place for it was right here. Took a piece of 3/4 plate and popped holes in it for the vise, and then it's welded on here, and I've got a gusset underneath. I don't do anything massive on it, but it's held up and taken everything I've thrown at it. Kind of a funny side note, again, putting all this together, it kind of got tiring after a while. I got this from my local welding supply. They're not terribly expensive, and for what we do as welders and metal workers, we're gonna beat the tar out of them anyway. So the one thing about it is this ugly lime green that it comes, and I had it all mounted, had it done, debated on taking it apart and painting it, and I was at the point, if I'm just too tired, I'll just live with it. My wife came out and looked at my truck and made a comment after I'd done this. Looks great, but that's ugly. So of course, immediately I did have to take it apart and paint it. So it is red, just like everything else on my truck. And additionally, it's kind of funny, but I'm pretty serious about my coffee. After about 3 days in a row of knocking the coffee off the back of my truck, I needed a coffee holder. I got tired of knocking it off, so I have a built-in little coffee holder right there to keep from spilling what I need to stay awake and stay pleasant to everybody. Needless to say, staying hydrated is pretty important on any of our jobs, especially out in days like we're having right now. So I needed a cooler. I really didn't want one of the big Rotomo coolers because they're so thick walled and they take up so much room for the amount of volume you get. I just really didn't want to waste that space, in my opinion. I've liked these little coolers for a long time. They do have one fault. I'll show you that in a second, but it just sits up here out of the way. A little kind of like a Jeep hood strap that holds it. I've got a bar here to keep it from getting in the other way, and it just slides right out. Now, when you look at the little bracket that I made, it won't go out this way, or this way. Plus, when it's full of ice, it's a good 20 pounds anyway. So it rides up here. I've been down some pretty bumpy roads, and it never goes anywhere. One thing about these coolers, they're not the best in the world. I'll admit they're not the best insulated. I believe they're called the Latitude or something. I don't know. I actually picked this up at Dollar General. The lids are hollow, and they're notorious for losing all of your cooling out of here. So I found this hack online. A couple of people did it. Sprayed it down with some PAM. I drilled a bunch of 1/4-inch holes in here, and I pumped it full of the Great Stuff type foam, but the window and door sealed, so it didn't expand as bad. You can feel the weight in this lid, and my helper and I were out the other day, and we had ice in it, and by the end of the day, it still had ice cubes in it. So just doing that made a huge difference, and you can get a lot more capacity of a cooler in a smaller footprint by just doing that. So make sure you got some way to hydrate yourself and keep some, maybe even your lunch in here on your truck when you set it up. So this side of the truck is kind of the workhorse. This is where everything is stored. That's why I put all my tools kind of in one area. But the first one, again, this toolbox didn't come with the truck. I had to add it on. And you might see in some of these toolboxes there's some dry decking in the bottom. It does help keep moisture away from the tools. But here's my primary area for all my angle grinders. Cut-off wheels, wire wheels. In the back, I've actually got the big old 7-inch 15-amp Makita workhorse grinder as well. So everything for prepping and cleaning. I have my needle scaler, grinders, chipping hammer, brushes, files, everything else goes in this guy. So this is the last of the lower compartments. Again, I've got some extra room to grow, which is nice that I'm not completely overflowing. A few miscellaneous things in here. I've got drill bits. This is where I keep all my hinges, extra weld on hinges, a few crescent wrenches, and then my welding blankets. I use the fiberglass ones. They work, but I'm probably going to go over to Tandy Leather and get some cheap pieces of hide. A friend of mine, Armando, got some from Tandy, and that's what he uses as welding blankets, and they work out great. So the main primary toolboxes I use is this. This is a 6-foot. It's a buyer's box and double compartmented. This one's aluminum. It would have been better for steel for magnetic, but didn't really matter. I put a shelf in here that I made, just a little additional shelf. I've got your little typical squeezy F-clamps. I built a rack in here for all of my vice grips, other F-clamps. It's kind of a mess, but I can't compartmentalize it much more. Stuff jumbles around, but is what it is. I've got levels and hammers and grinders and other bits in here. Again, since it's aluminum and I do like to use magnetic stuff, I pop riveted a piece of plate steel in here so I can stick a few things down. I put some little rare earth magnets under a piece of tape to hold my 1, 2, 3 blocks down, and a couple of levels in here. On this side, I've got a pair of bolt cutters, something that's handy to have. I don't use a lot, so it needs to be out of my way. But again, riveted this down so I could weld fixtures to it. So, funny story about the top one, this toolbox is upside down. All I could find that matches this, it looks just like this, are all flip downs. There are no flip ups, and most of these aren't finished on the bottom. This came from Tractor Supply. This is a 4-foot box from Tractor Supply, and pardon me, this is a 5-foot box from Tractor Supply. The 4-foot's kind of a matte finish, and the other 3 and 5s are slick like this. Here's the funny thing. This box is actually upside down. It flips down as well. However, the bottom side is perfectly finished. It's weather sealed, so I don't have to worry about anything getting in. So I wouldn't be able to reach in here very well, being the height I am, to get to all my tools. So I decided to mount it upside down, flip it up. If you go to gasstruts.com, you can custom order any strut you want, any size you want, and give them all the dimensions. They'll tell you exactly how to mount it. So I fabricated a bracket, fabricated the mounts, made this fit right here, and now when I go to open it, it just kicks up out of my way. Additionally, I took the logo off so you can't tell it's upside down. And the other nice thing is when they're right here, all your handles right in one spot. Reach over, grab them, pop them. Now we're open for business for the day. So I've got all my power tools in here. I am dedicated to one platform, so I don't have to switch and have a bunch of different batteries. I have the M12 and M18 series from Milwaukee. If you have any questions about any of the tools you see in here or want to comment on them, please let me know. I'm happy to talk about them. One of the best little tools I have is this little 5-inch metal cutting Milwaukee saw. That thing will eat. I've cut 1/2-inch plate with this. You got to go slow, but it works. Up here, I've got a few spare parts. Again, I've got some fasteners like concrete anchors. I've got plates for fences. I've got mounting covers for the base plates, additional hand tools, sockets, wrenches, ratchets, all of that. I do keep a couple of boxes up here of miscellaneous fittings. This one is washers and nuts. This one's bolts and screws. They do come in handy. I do keep a variety of paints to touch up, some different caulk to seal up if I need to. And then over here, again, I've got my primary drills and drivers and a bunch of extra batteries for this area. And once again, all these, if you were to look down here, all of these do have dry deck down in here, just again, keep the moisture away from the tools and keep everything kind of clean as well. It makes it easier to clean out eventually when you take everything out, have a cleanup day, and reset everything. One additional thing I want to do here for security, I can lock these compartments, they're all lockable, is either key them all the same, but again, between these, I would have to put on, I believe it's a total of 8 or 10 locks that I would have to lock up. I'm probably going to get an alarm company to put in a little pin block that acts on the vehicle remote. So when I lock the truck, a little pin will pop through and lock every compartment so my truck is more secure. Right now, I'm just careful of where I park, lock it up if I have to, because people are way too happy to steal your tools. One other thing, folks, you've got to carry some extra material. I saw Austin Ross talk about it on his rig, and I have a little box here. I'm going to rebuild this. It's not as efficient. I'm going to rebuild it, compartmentalize it, but I have a little bit of everything in here. I have chain, I have flat bar, I have angle, I have tube, I have aluminum, I have stainless, I have carbon steel. It won't build an entire project, but when I go out and I do a lot of minimal or medium-sized repairs, I've got what I need to cut out and fix things. If you're planning a bigger project, obviously you're going to take more materials with you, but absolutely keep a stash of just random different materials so you can more readily take care of your customers and get them done that same day and not have to wait on it. So as we're up in the back of the truck now, you can see the end of the pipeliner's cloud mount. I do carry a shovel. It's more handy than you think. I use it more than I thought I would. Over here, I've got a couple of pipe jacks. I don't use them that much. If I did more fence work, I've got some more I can throw on here. Most of what's back here, I don't go to every day, but it's mostly my extras. I do have a T-square down there to help if I'm working with sheet goods. I do have my 2 additional 50-foot chunks of Stinger right there. I have an additional 100 feet of oxy-fuel, so I have 200 feet, which I actually have used going down into an area to cut some pipe loose. I do carry a come-along. Over here is another Stinger lead, the other one. I do have another 100 feet of air line. I have run a little bit tight with that 50, I've needed it. And over here I've got additional 240 volt cords. With what I have 105 feet of 240 volt. So again, if I'm within 100 feet of my truck, I'm pretty much golden on almost all my connections. Then back here I keep a 4-foot step ladder, a sledgehammer, and then of course, like I said, over here I do have a broom for trying to clean up and not leave things too big of a mess when I get done with a job. These bull horns are just like the other ones. Those were 1.25 inches. These are 1.5 inches. Same thing, plate with elbows and caps. Again, doesn't have to be that structurally sound. I can pop these welds off and take this right back off if I ever decide to change my configuration. So I make it to where it's very secure, but relatively easy to change and modify. One other future plan, and I have for the upfitter switches, is a set of lights up here. It's kind of a working type light that I could aim somewhere around the bed or off to the side, and I haven't needed it yet. Of course, we're in the middle of summer and it doesn't get dark till 9 o'clock at night. We'll see what happens this winter. I may or may not add those lights onto here, and again, I've got a nice big chunk of 3-square tubing. I could add anything on here I want, any other kind of lights, things to tie to. Eventually, if I decide to put some kind of materials rack, I have this as well, but this front rack is extremely handy and gives you a lot of options, kind of a grown-up Lego set to build off of, whatever you want. Additionally, since the whole cab is obscured, I can't see out of the back, Another vehicle I've seen has basically a rear view camera tied to your mirror that is your rear view mirror. I may put a shroud up here and put a camera back here so I actually have a rear view mirror so I can see from behind me, but it'll just be video instead of an actual reflection. If you have any other ideas or suggestions of what would work good up here or be a big help, please let me know. Leave me a comment. So for the back seat, my primary area that I go to most of the time, I did what they call the rear seat delete. Now, this is completely custom built, and what we did was I took out the seats, I took out the little fold out pieces and got this completely bare. On the back wall, I covered it with a couple layers of Dynamat to give me some more insulation. I did keep the vents open to help open and close from there. The bottom, if you look down here, is 3/4 inch birch plywood. And I used cardboard. I templated against the seats up to the console. The seats cannot go any further back than where I have them fixed, so they're set. Put that down, and then against the back wall, another piece of 3/4 inch birch plywood that is anchored and screwed into a couple of the metal brackets against the back. So what I gave myself was a nice blank canvas to build up from. And again, you'll see throughout here, I try to make use of available space, not just forward and backwards, but up kind of in the air. So let's take a look at some of the compartmentalized things first. So to the plywood itself, I know there'll be a lot of people that comment that it's heavy and you're a metal worker, but if you look through this vehicle, there's a little bit of everything. The only metal I don't have in here, I believe, is titanium. But plywood, it's a lot easier to work with for some things. You can screw to it, unscrew it, move things around. Also provides some good sound dampening. It's not a ton, so compared to everything else I carried, didn't add a lot of weight. So for me, going with birch plywood was a pretty good option. What I did was to build this, I laid out everything I normally carry. These are my daily in and out grabs. Knee pads, caps, gloves, other gloves, a sleeve, pad. I grab that all the time. So I wanted it, instead of just being in a pile, which it wound up in my other vehicle, I wanted it organized so it wouldn't slide around and move around. So I laid out the piece of plywood the size that I wanted. I laid out the items, I sketched it all out, and I built this out of aluminum, and I hit it with an orbital sander to kind of rough up the surface for that look. Back here, I want to keep my consumables in here. This is a dual, your little canisters that you can get from, again, your local welding supply that hold a variety of rods. And some of the rods I've bought, I don't use that often. I've got some cast iron. I have some stainless back in here. So they're in their original container, and I made a couple of slots to fit that. Over here, I have more consumables. The camera may not pick it up, but my primary flux cord, self-shielded flux cord wire. I've got some spool gun aluminum. I do have a little bit of smaller rolls of flux cord, and I also have a roll of MIG wire. I can MIG with gas if I have to. I rarely, if ever, need to do that. I do keep a battery charger for both types of Milwaukee batteries. This thing charges up really fast, and I'll just throw it out on the back of the truck, plug it in while we're working. I do carry a couple of different hoods. My primary is my pipeliner style or sugar scoop, and then I do use a pancake. I'm outdoors a lot. Absolutely love a pancake hood. I'll put a link to my review on it. That pancake really changed the way I did some of my welding. It's been a big help. Of course, protective face shield. I do go on job sites that require a hard hat occasionally if I'm going to inspect something, so I carry a hard hat and a reflective vest up there as well. Here I've got my two primary torches, one for cutting and a big rosebud. They stay in here, they stay out of the weather, they stay nice and clean. Have a couple of strikers here. I do carry one of the Milwaukee pack outs. I actually don't even have anything in here yet, so I still have room to grow. To that piece of plywood, really all I had to do was a couple of bolts at the back, and down here I have an anchor brace just to hold it up at the front on both sides. Everything else holds it in place. It's not going to move, so it's well secured. I also carry my level back here, and then I've got a little area I can tuck a few other things in there. The other thing I'm really happy with, and not gonna lie, I'm kind of proud of, to make space, instead of having this flat, I came up and I built a drawer. It's got self-closing sliders on it. I left it wide open. I use little plastic compartments to move things around in here. And again, it's small miscellaneous parts. It's some consumables, my iPro, a pair of welpers, a pair of calipers, things I don't want really rattling around in the toolboxes that make it hard to get to. So this little compartment right here, just having this drawer, is super, super handy for all these little small items. So the last area is the passenger side back door, and it's where I keep my primary portable welders. So I have two Millermatic 211s back here. I can't say enough good things. I should do more reviews on those because they are great welders and really affordable. One is set up to be dedicated self-shielded flux core. That's the one on the right. The one in the middle has a Spoolmate 150, a Miller aluminum spool gun. And again, those two little guys are workhorses. Over here, I've got a Lincoln Square Wave 200. That's my primary TIG machine. Again, great machine. Not a lot of bells and whistles, but it does AC, it does DC, and it really welds well with the accessories that go for it. Down here, I built a rack right here that holds all my consumables for TIG welding. So I've got pretty much everything I need. Carbon steel, aluminum, stainless steel are all right in there. This little pack out is all my TIG stuff. Cups, ferrules, bodies, backs, everything I need there. And then down here I've got some extra things. I've got extra oxy-fuel regulators. I've got additional power because the Square Wave is actually a dual voltage, so it has additional cord to it. The Millermatics are also dual voltage, but they change out the plug, and those are actually inside the machine. Then additionally, I've got another MIG gun down here in case this one fails, which it has for us. So once again, folks, when you can do it, if you can do it, make sure you have backups because invariably something's going to fail on you and leave you kind of hanging. Keep a couple additional fluids over here like acetylene and some PB Blaster. Then up here, I've got some room to grow. I'm going to get a, I believe it's a Haug mag drill. I definitely got to have a mag drill. I have a corded and a cordless portaband blower. Again, little handy blower. This little Milwaukee M18 blower is pretty powerful, and it's great for clearing up after you get done with the job site. And then of course a hammer drill, which is real good for setting concrete anchors. All right, folks, that's it. That's the tour of this truck and everything I can think of. I'm probably missing things. If you have any questions or comments, again, please leave them below. If there's anything else you want to see, any other parts of the vehicle maybe I went too quick on, let me know about that as well. Anything I can think of as far as parts or anything like that, I'll leave links down in the description. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I don't have an Amazon page you can buy from, so I don't get any money out of this. This is just for myself. I'd love it if you'd like this video. I'd love it if you'd subscribe to my channel. Really appreciate it. I'm going to keep trying to turn out some videos like this about helpful tips, both with tools and welding in general. So again, thanks for stopping by and have a great day.